Welcome to the PRSS 111 Introduction to Provider Enrollment PE training session. During this session, we'll introduce the provider enrollment process, identify the different enrollment types, and provide guidance on the documentation that providers need to prepare prior to enrolling. Then we'll show you an overview of what the provider enrollment application looks like and how to submit. Our agenda topics today, we have a welcome and opening, so we have a few more slides to cover that. And we'll jump into the Provider Enrollment Wizard Part 1, where we'll access the PE Wizard. We'll go over managing an enrollment application, and then we'll jump into Part 2 of our Provider Enrollment Wizard session, where we'll complete an enrollment application. We'll go over the next steps after submission. We'll do a revalidation overview, and we will wrap everything up. Our learning objectives today in the Provider Enrollment PE application session. We will identify criteria needed to complete an enrollment application. We will submit a PE application, and we will explain the next steps after an application is submitted. And we hope you understand revalidation from the provider's perspective. For Part 1 of our PE Wizard session, we have a MES introduction video for providers, which is a review of the overall process. And it will give you a better idea of how this class fits into becoming a Virginia Medicaid provider. This video can also be found on a provider training page. Then we'll go over accessing the PE Wizard and managing an enrollment application. Welcome! By now, you probably know that you will need to use MES to access the new provider portal. But the steps to get set up and access this portal to perform your daily functions may not yet be clear. Let's help define this process so you know what to expect. This entire process includes 3 key steps. First, you'll need to enroll as a Virginia Medicaid provider if you are not already enrolled or if you need to add a service location. Next, you'll need to access the MES provider portal. Then you'll need to set all delegates who will perform tasks in the portal on the provider's behalf. It's that simple. The transition to using MES and the provider portal starts with enrollment, using the Provider Enrollment Wizard. The Provider Enrollment Wizard is a dynamic, user-friendly electronic form that you will use to submit your provider enrollment application to enroll in the fee-for-service VA-FFS program or one or more of the managed care programs with Virginia Medicaid. You will use the provider enrollment application to re-enroll, add additional service locations, and to revalidate your provider enrollment information. If you are not already enrolled, if you need to add a service location, or if you are an MCO-only provider, your first step must be enrollment. Otherwise, you will not be able to gain access to the provider portal. Before you start the application, the Provider Enrollment Wizard has a pre-checklist generator that you can use to help identify the required documentation and information that you will need as part of your application. To generate this checklist, you will need to know the enrollment type and provider type. For more information on determining these 2 items, pause this video and write down the URL https://va-medicaid.dmas.virginia.gov/provider/downloads. When you go to the site, you will scroll to the bottom and select the PRSS provider code value descriptions link to download the spreadsheet. When you open the spreadsheet, select the enrollment type provider type crosswalk to view these details. While this electronic application is intuitive to use, you may want to view the training that details each section of the application. For this training topic, you can register for the PRSS 111 course that includes all possible application sections. Or if a video fits better into your schedule, you can view a video that is tailored to include only sections relevant to your enrollment type by watching the associated video in the series PRSS 112 to PRSS 117. There is also a comprehensive Provider Enrollment Wizard user guide on this provider training page. This training can be found by scrolling down to the How to Enroll as a Provider section of the provider training page. After your application is approved, you'll receive 2 emails with credentials to log into MES so you can access the new provider portal. In the provider portal, you should verify your provider and profile information. This was the information you included in the application. For this training topic, you can register for the PRSS 120 course that includes detailed navigation demonstrations. Or if a video fits better into your schedule, you can view a shorter video version that addresses key navigation by watching PRSS 121. There's also a comprehensive provider portal user guide on this provider training page. This training is found by scrolling down to the How to Use the Provider Portal section of the provider training page. After you gain access to the provider portal, if you want to assign delegates to perform tasks in the portal on the provider's behalf, you will need to set up delegate access. When you set up a delegate, that user will need to complete their MES registration to obtain unique credentials before they can start using the system. Each provider and delegate should have their own MES login credentials. For this training topic, you can register for the PRSS 118 virtual session that includes how to set up and manage delegates, their roles, and their permissions. For your convenience, there is a video recording of this session on the provider training page. You can also find step details related to managing delegates in the provider portal user guide. This training is found by scrolling down to the How to Use the Provider Portal section of the provider training page. We want to mention a few more training courses that might benefit you. MES 103 is a video that provides you with a detailed view of the process for logging into MES and navigating to the provider portal. It also includes a quick reference guide that you can save or print. MES 105 is a reference document that explains how to access additional MES modules, such as CRMS for long-term care screening and assessment. On the provider training page, there is a link to the CRMS training page where you can find additional self-paced interactive courses that walk you step by step through the screening and assessment processes in the new CRMS module. We hope this video has provided you with clarification and helped you better prepare for your next steps. You are now ready to get started. The PE Wizard aligns with CMS guidelines to manage Virginia Medicaid providers' new enrollments, revalidations, and new service locations. Virginia Medicaid providers will use the PE Wizard to submit these applications. Let's go to the PE homepage now, and we will show you how to access the PE Wizard. From our MES homepage, users can scroll down and access the PE Wizard here. Clicking here on the new provider enrollment link will take you to the PE Wizard and start your application for Virginia Medicaid application. Once your application is approved, let's jump back to the top of this homepage. Here you can access the MES login page and the PRSS link for the provider portal to maintain your Virginia Medicaid profile by clicking the blue login button. Here we are at our training environment page. To access the PE Wizard from here, you would go Menu, Provider Enrollment, and then New Enrollment. We'll go ahead and click to open that up now before starting the enrollment. It is highly recommended to create a pre-checklist, which is done by clicking here on the blue Enrollment Pre-Checklist button. This helps ensure that you have all the necessary documentation ready, making it easier and faster to complete your application. This step is especially useful if a delegate or staff member will be handling your application, but it is not mandatory. To generate a pre-checklist, simply fill in the fields to tailor the requirements for your individual application. So you can follow along with me to generate a pre-checklist. First, we have our different enrollment types field if you are new to Virginia Medicaid, and you need to determine your enrollment type and provider type. There is a lookup reference document located on the provider training site at the link provided to you earlier in the video. We will go ahead and choose our enrollment type. For this example, we will select group. And for our provider type, we will select group practice. Next is our specialty, a single and multi-specialty group. Next, we will select our tax ID type, either an EIN or a SSN. We will select EIN for this example. Select the radio button to indicate if you are Medicare enrolled. We'll go ahead and select yes, and then we will click on the drop-down arrow to select if we will accept patients in the following programs. We will go ahead and select that we accept patients in FSS and the MCO. At this point, we are ready to go ahead and click the Generate Pre-Checklist button. Here we have our pre-checklist document. This document can be downloaded or printed for reference, allowing you more time if needed to gather these required items. From here, we would go ahead and start the enrollment application by clicking the Start button. This registration information is used to track your application and resume an application if you start it but need to complete it later. The email provided here is solely used for this application. Any notifications sent to this email will be related to this application only And this email can be different from the one used to access the provider portal and receive notifications after the enrollment process is complete. As you can see, we have already entered an email and password information. The provider reference field is an optional field. It can be used as a reference to help identify the enrollment application. So this field is particularly helpful for delegates enrolling multiple providers. At this point, we would go ahead and select Register. After completing the registration, a pop-up message will confirm the application is submitted and provide a system-generated application tracking number, or ATN. Additionally, a confirmation email is automatically sent to the provider email address containing the ATN and a password hint, which includes the first and last characters of the password. This information will be used to access and track the application. The email address for the application does not need to match the provider's contact email. However, if the application remains inactive for 30 days, it will expire. The courtesy reminder email will be sent 15 days prior to the expiration date. In the event of expiration, an application expiration notice is issued, and a new application will need to be initiated. Click OK to proceed. Here we have our application tracking number at the top of the screen. This will be the number used to track this specific application. We will go ahead and select our enrollment type. I'm going to select individual this time. The application process is dynamic and only displays the needed step or steps based on the information provided during the various prior responses, such as enrollment type. We can demonstrate an example of that. We'll address this pop-up in just a moment. So you see these windows up here. If we select Facility Organization, the windows change and the options up here change. We will go into more detail later as well. Let's show the options so you can see the application dynamically change. Click OK to confirm and close the pop-up. As you can see here, when a typical provider is selected, the available steps change. Let's return to the enrollment type individual. Select individual and click OK. Your application tracking number is displayed at the top. The step you are currently working on is highlighted in a different color. We can see that General Information step is highlighted, and the display text is bold so you always know where you are in the process. All application steps must be completed in sequential order. Users can navigate back to a previous step, if needed, by clicking on the specific tile for a completed step. Notice that over in the top right-hand corner, there is a yellow question mark. This is a link for PE Wizard help and is located on each step of the application. At this point, we've officially started the application for Virginia Medicaid, and at any point, if we need to pause and resume this application later, we can. So we're actually going to stop here in the application process and are going to go back to our home page by clicking this MES icon in the top left corner. We are going to go ahead and leave. Now we are back on our home page. We want to make sure that you know how to reset your application password. Users can do this when they think their password has been compromised, or if they just forget what it was. To reset your password, you need to go to the Manage Password page. To navigate to the Manage Password page, we are going to come up to the menu button. Click Provider Enrollment, and then go down to Manage Password. Users should input their application tracking number in the designated text field. Next, they would enter the existing password, followed by the new password and confirmation of the new password. Finally, they can click Submit located in the lower right-hand corner. In the event they forget their password, they can utilize the Forgot Password link provided here. When users click on the Forgot Password link, a one-time password or OTP window will appear. In this window, you can enter your application tracking number to generate a one-time password. The one-time password is then sent to the email address associated with your application tracking number. You can use that one-time password to create a new password. After completing this process, we close the box, and we will go back to our home page. Before we continue with the application, let's see what you recall. What menu option is selected to reset an enrollment password? Is it A, enrollment status, B, manage password, or C, resume revalidate enrollment? The correct answer is B, manage password. True or false? Your password for provider enrollment is or will be the same as your provider portal password. False, they are different passwords. Our third question. A pre-enrollment checklist is required before starting your enrollment registration. Is this true or false? The correct answer is false. It is not a requirement before starting registration, but it is strongly recommended. And our last question for this section: when does a new enrollment application that has not been submitted expire? Is it after 30 days of inactivity, after 60 days of inactivity, after 90 days, or never? The correct answer is after 30 days of inactivity, it will expire, and the new application will have to be started. In part 2 of our PE Wizard training session, we will go over completing an enrollment application. Before we review a completed application, let's discuss the steps you might encounter and the kinds of information you'll need to provide. The PE Wizard's enrollment process consists of several steps that must be completed in a specific order to submit your enrollment application. The PE Wizard adapts the necessary steps based on the information you provide throughout the application, such as enrollment type, provider type, and specialty. Some steps are always required, regardless of your responses. Required steps are indicated with blue highlighting as shown on this slide, and asterisks always denote mandatory steps. For this demonstration, we'll go through and address all possible steps. Let's resume an application we've previously completed. First, you'll need to locate the ATN found in the registration email sent. We will need this number and the password that we created to get back into the application that we started. Hopefully, you remember your password because the email will only provide a hint with the first and last characters. The rest is hidden. However, as you learned earlier in the demonstration, if you forget, you can always reset your password. So now that we have our application tracking number, let's go back to the PE Wizard and show you how to resume the application that we previously created. From our home page, we will go to the menu, to Provider Enrollment, and then to Resume Revalidate Enrollment, where you will enter in the application tracking number and then you'll enter in your password. And then we'll go ahead and click Resume over here in the right-hand corner. When users resume an application, it opens to the most recent page. Based on what is selected here, the windows change. We get this pop-up again, letting us know once the information is saved on this page, we cannot change the enrollment type. So it asks us to please confirm our selection before proceeding. When we select provider type in the field, we get that message here as well. So once we leave this general information page, we will be unable to change the enrollment type and provider type. To save time in this demo, instead of completing an enrollment in the session, we are actually going to demonstrate a pre-filled application. So let's go back to our home page. And I'm going to go ahead and enter in an application tracking number and password for a previous application. Starting at the home page, we go to Menu, Provider Enrollment, and then to Resume Revalidate Enrollment. Here we've entered in our application tracking number and our password of our previously filled out application. We're going to go ahead and click Resume and bring that application up. As explained earlier when resuming an application, it will open to the most recent page when we log in. As we see here, we're at the Agree Submit step, since that's where our application stopped. Your real-life application may differ slightly from what we see here, as each application has different requirements based on your provider type, specialty, and enrollment type. We're going to go ahead and click back to our General Information step to start at Step 1 of the application. As you can see, our enrollment type and our provider type are grayed out, and I'm unable to select these. So if a change is needed to these two fields, you will have to begin a new enrollment application. So here we have our enrollment type listed as a facility or organization, and the provider type is hospital. The effective date cannot be more than 365 days in the past from the current date and not prior to license certification date. The effective date is the first date on which a provider may be reimbursed for eligible services. When applying as an individual and also as part of a group as an IG provider, you should select individual as the enrollment type to complete a single combined application. You are limited to one service location when using a combined application. An example scenario is that you are a provider that wants to bill directly under your own provider Medicaid number and as part of a group. If you have more than one service location, you will also need to enroll as an individual within a group provider. This will require a second application. Down here, we have our provider information section, and the provider information allows individual or business information, depending on the type of application. Here we see that we have answered no to our enrollment questions, And we have that we will accept patients in the following programs: fee-for-service and MCO. To select another MCO, we would just click inside the field and our drop-down list appears with our list of MCOs. This means billing this MCO directly is being requested. At the bottom is your contact information section. We have an address entered, and it is preferred that you use an address that matches USPS records. If not, you will get a pop-up alert. On this screen, located in the top right-hand corner of each text field, we have a little question mark. This is our field help icon, and if we hover over these little help icons, it gives you a little bit more information about the field itself. Remember, any field marked with a blue asterisk is a required field. Let's jump back to the top. At the top, there's a narrow progress bar indicating the completion status. Since this is a pre-filled application, the progress bar won't visually advance. However, we are currently reviewing the first step in the process. We see the general information step is highlighted. This application has already been filled out up to the Agree Submit step, so it's currently at the final stage of the process. In addition, there's a Print Preview tab located here, which can be used at any point during the application process. You can use it to print a partial application if you need to stop and have questions, and you can also print the application after it has been submitted. For our next step, we are going to click the Specialties tile and move ahead. And we will scroll down. Here, you can see we have the Specialties table. If we need to add a specialty, we click this Create New box, located in the top right-hand corner of this table. On the Create New Specialty window, we have the Make Primary checkbox. One specialty needs to be selected as primary, but only one can be a primary specialty. So we would enter our required information as needed here to add our specialty. To modify our specialty, we should click on the pencil icon here. This action will open up a window where we can edit our specialty information. At the bottom, we have our additional taxonomy table. Additional taxonomies are optional, and if I click Create New here, then click the drop-down menu, you can see all the options and select the related taxonomies that apply. I will click Cancel. Again, we will jump back to the top to go ahead and move forward to our service location window. Here you can see we have our service location table. Let's go ahead and select the edit icon located at the end of the location name row, so we can view a filled-out service location window. This window has all of our contact information at the top. Scrolling down here, we see that a phone number is required. At least one phone number must be provided. We could go ahead and click Create New if we needed to add a phone number. We also have this Hours of Operation checkbox. Selecting the checkbox allows you to enter the hours of operation. While it doesn't show this in blue, the hours of operation is a required area. At the bottom, we have the service address information section. As a reminder, more than one service location will require 2 applications. It is preferred that you use an address that matches USPS records. If not, you will get a pop-up alert to confirm. Dental providers will have a few additional questions regarding services for children with special needs. At this point, we would click Save, but I will click Cancel. Normally, we would click Save and Continue, but remember, because this is a pre-filled application, we are just going to select the next window, which is our addresses window. An individual within a group providers are not prompted for address information. ORPs will only include the mail to address, and addresses not applicable to your enrollment may be left blank. We are going to scroll down to see our PATA section. We have the option to select Same as Service Location, which is already selected. Once that box is selected, the system pulls over all your information entered in the previous step. This is a very helpful and time-saving feature. Scrolling further down, you can see our phone number section. As stated earlier, a phone number is required, and continuing further down, we have our Mail to section. If we click our drop-down menu here, you can see it lists our service location and our pay to address, so we can choose either option. We will go ahead and keep the service location selected. Now, let's scroll down a bit more. In the Preferred Communication section, we have chosen Email. If you haven't provided an email address earlier and have selected email as your preferred communication, you will receive an error message. You will need to include an email address in the service location step or choose not to use the Same as Service Location option here. Therefore, your preferred communication here must match what you selected in the General Information module. Addresses may be added or edited through the provider portal after enrollment approval. Again, normally we would click Save and Continue, but because this is a pre-filled application, we will jump back up to the top of the page. Next, we are going to click on our organization tile. An individual within a group providers and ORPs will not have this step. A combined individual within a group provider's application will include this organization step, as well as corporations. Here, you can see we have our organization type and our tax classification, which are the only two required fields in this step. And here we have some additional information that we can add. Jumping back up to the top, we will select our credentials tile. Here we are at our credentials step, and this step is hidden if not applicable based on your entered provider type or provider specialty. Sections in this step will vary based on provider type and provider specialty. Enter the expiration date of license or certification, unless you must have Centers for Medicare Medicaid Services CMS, then enter December 31st, 9999. To add a new credential, you'd select the Create New icon under the credential you would like to add and complete the required fields. To edit, we would click the pencil icon under the table, and that brings up our current information. This is where users can edit the information or delete if necessary. Now let's click the provider type tile. We will switch to a slide to show what you will encounter. Once again, this step is hidden if not applicable based on the provider's type and specialty. For providers with clinical laboratory improvement amendments known as CLIA information, the CLIA number is entered during this step. Let's return to the system and access the other tile. This step is where we would enter in our language information. A new entry requires users to click Create New and then enter in the new information, or users can edit the current information if one is already created. Here we have our certification information, our additional information with our provider website URL, our electronic claims submission participation, and our claim signature waiver. Let's jump back up to the top of the application. Let's take a look at our disclosures tile. You can see the disclosure details listed here. And if we scroll down, we see our disclosure forms. Now the status. As you can see over here in this column, the status for each disclosure changes to completed once it's been added. And the application cannot continue to the next page until all the disclosures are completed. We will go ahead and open up our subcontractor disclosure here so you can see what a disclosure entails. All right, here's our new subcontractor disclosure, and again, it's dynamic. So based on your responses to the questions, you may or may not have more information to add. As you can see, we've got tables with additional information listed here, but we are going to go ahead and cancel without saving. We'll jump back to the top of the window. Next, we will take a look at our attachment step. Here it is our attachment step. You can see our provider type and our specialty are listed here, but grayed out as we are unable to change these. Here we have our required attachments table. And as you can see, the requirements met is already yes for this example, but it will start as no. If it is no, you'll select the Create New down here in the attachments table. You would then go ahead and select a transmission method. Then you can select the attachment type from the drop-down list. Next, you can select the file from your computer and upload it here. Let's click Cancel. And then the requirements met would change to a yes. Remember, the application cannot continue to the next page until all the attachment requirements are met. Again, normally after completing, you would click Save and Continue, but we are going to jump back up to the top of the page. We are going to take a look at our fees step. The fees section will populate for applicable applications. When a fee is due and check is selected, instructions are available for download after submission. If online is selected, the payment processor will open in a new window. If you decide to complete the payment through the payment processor, be sure to return to the PE wizard to finish the application. Fees are only applicable to high-risk providers who have not already submitted payment to Medicare or another state Medicaid program. If you completed these payments, answer the questions on this page to submit your fee waiver request. We are now going to take a look at the Agreement and Submit step. So here we are at our Agreement and Submit step, where users can view the terms and agreement with the contact information. The terms and conditions verify that the information in your application is accurate, that the submitter is authorized to complete the application, that future changes related to provider information will be shared with the Virginia Medicaid program, and that the submitter understands the state policies. We will scroll down to the bottom and click Proceed. We are presented with a copy of our provider agreement document, which we would read through, and then click the I accept checkbox down here on the lower right-hand side. By clicking Yes, we agree to the terms and conditions of the provider agreement. We would go ahead and select Yes in the pop-up window, and we would scroll down. Above the portal registration details window, there may or may not be a confirmation window for individuals within a group or individual providers who have selected an authorized administrator on the association step. When prompted, you will have the option to either select Yes to create credentials for yourself or No to forego access to the provider portal, meaning you would not have access. If you choose to forego access, any portal changes will need to be made through your authorized administrator. It's important to note that provider portal credentials and associated notifications are only created once, and additional service locations will not receive notifications. Provider portal user IDs are unique email addresses. If you are a new provider and have not been registered with MESA Virginia, you will receive an email with instructions on how to access the secure provider portal. If the email address is not unique, you will not receive any mail and will need to access the provider portal or contact the primary account holder for your entity to gain access to manage your information. For more detailed information, please review the provider portal user guides. The request verification code window is utilized to create and verify the submitter's identity before application submission. The submitter needs access to their email inbox to retrieve the requested code and submit the application. We are not going to demonstrate submitting an application, but if we wanted to submit the application, the user would enter the code found in their email and click this Submit button over here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. We will look at a submission confirmation in a moment, but there are a couple more windows that did not populate with this enrollment type to cover first. So let's flip back to our slides and show those in case you encounter them. Here we have our background check step, and again, this will populate for applicable applications. Fingerprint requirements only apply to high-risk providers and dental providers. When fingerprints are required, a notification letter is generated during the application review process. The electronic funds transfer EFT step will automatically populate for applicable applications. Individual or group providers and ORPs will not see this step, as they are not billing providers. If the NPI is already connected to a service location on another Virginia Medicaid enrollment application with EFT, the step will not be shown. The linked EFT will be used for the new service location. When revalidating or re-enrolling, the EFT page will not be displayed. EFT changes can be made through the provider portal outside of the revalidation period. This is the association's step. Individual-only providers will leave this step blank. Combined individual and individual with a group providers will add at least one group. Individual within a group providers, whether completing a combined application or an IG-only application, are required to enter at least one group association. So groups can optionally associate with individual facilities and ORPs can optionally associate with each other. Atypical providers do not have this step. Here we would go ahead and in our table click Create New. Up in the top right-hand corner, we can add a group provider by searching by service location ID or NPI. A pop-up window will appear with the search results. You can select a provider from the list and enter in an effective date. Once that is done, you can click Save. This will add the provider to the group associations table. This covers the associations section. We now have our Submit Confirmation window. After submitting the application, this window displays the application tracking number ATN. If there is still a fee due, the application fee form link is available below the ATN. Up in the corner, we have the Print Preview button, which allows users to view and keep a PDF copy of the application. When you click on the Print Preview button, all of the sections are automatically selected in the pop-up window. If you don't want to include certain sections in the PDF, users can deselect them. After that, simply click on Print to create the PDF that you can save or print. Our next steps after submission. After you submit the application, you can check its status at any time. By going to the PE homepage, click on Menu. Then select Provider Enrollment, followed by Enrollment Status. Once the enrollment status appears, enter the ATN and password for the application and click Submit. The system will then display the enrollment status for the application. After a determination is made on the application, users will receive one or more notifications. If your application is sent back for corrections, you will receive a return to provider notification outlining the necessary changes. This may include adding additional attachments or editing responses. You'll have 30 days to make the required corrections and resubmit your application. Failure to do so by the deadline will result in your application being denied. In the event of a denial, you will receive a notification stating that your application has been denied and that you are not enrolled in the Virginia Medicaid program. If you are able to address the reasons for denial, you may submit a new enrollment application. If you already have provider portal credentials, such as completing an application for a new service location for your NPI, you will not receive additional credential information. Instead, the new service location will be matched based on your NPI, and both locations will be displayed in the provider portal. It's important to note that if you need to assign delegates for the new location, you must complete the necessary steps in the provider portal, as delegate access is not automatically applied. If your application is approved, you will receive a notification of your approval. Ongoing provider maintenance will be conducted in the provider portal. If you indicated that you want to apply for any MCO programs in the General Information section of your application and participation request will be submitted to the MCOs. Now it's time to find out what you recall. What 2 items does a user need to check the status of an enrollment application? The correct answer is the application tracking number and the enrollment password. What 2 items does a user need to check the status of an enrollment application? The correct answer is the application tracking number and the enrollment password. True or false, the provider portal credentials are only sent after an enrollment application is approved. The correct answer is true. Pending applications are not reflected in the provider portal. The last section we want to cover is revalidation. We're going to briefly touch on the revalidation overview process. In accordance with the ACA provider enrollment and screening regulations, all Virginia Medicaid providers are required to revalidate their enrollment information at least every 5 years. You must review the information in the revalidation application to ensure the information is still accurate. Update all necessary sections and submit the revalidation before your program expires. Once the revalidation notice is issued, you will see a link to the provider enrollment wizard to complete the revalidation application. 90 days before your Virginia Medicaid program is set to expire, you will be notified that it is time to revalidate your enrollment. Notification will come in the form of 2 emails or letters based on the communication preferences you indicated during the enrollment application process, or whatever the current preference is in the provider portal, if you updated it after your application was approved. Now it's time to find out what you recall. True or false, you must create a new password for revalidation? The correct answer is true. The final question. If your application is returned for corrections, how long do you have to submit revisions? The answer is 30 days. To sum up our provider enrollment PE application session, we have outlined the required criteria for completing an enrollment application, successfully submitted a PE application, and provided an explanation of the next steps after submitting an application. Congratulations on successfully finishing the Provider Enrollment PE Application Session PRSS 111.